This is my 3x3 target block powered piston door design, activated by shooting the target block in the middle of the door. It has a 9x9x2 footprint and can be activated by bows, crossbows, tridents, snowballs, eggs, splash potions, enchanted bottles, ender pearls, and fire chargers from a dispenser. Being only 2 blocks wide, it can be easily integrated as the entrance to a room, with only 2 layers of walls separating the door from the room and only 1 layer on the other side. Unfortunately, this piston below the base of the door is necessary for the door to function, as it uses a magic button concept to activate. These are the items that you'll need. And here's the footprint that we'll be working with. Start with the target block that you'll shoot to activate the door. Down 2 blocks, then place a downward facing sticky piston with a redstone block attached. Construct this comparator pulse extender feeding into a note block, then a repeater, and another pulse extender on the other side, feeding into a solid block. Next, we're going to construct the hopper updater. Place a block on top of the comparator, and a comparator on top of that facing the piston. Then a hopper facing into the block with a barrel on top. We need to fill the slots of the hopper with any item, and then place one item in the barrel above that's a different item. This will cause the piston to update immediately when it gets quasi-powered, but without any redstone updates or flashing lights that will idly lag your game. On the other side, place an observer on the note block and a sideways observer out of that feeding into a solid block. Place a note block to the side and 2 observers out of that into another solid block, and finally, an upward facing piston directly on top of the comparator. On the same side, we'll need 2 more solid blocks and another note block with an observer into a normal non-sticky piston. Then 4 sticky pistons to create the foundation for the 2 sideways double extenders that we'll need. On the other side, 2 sticky pistons on top of the barrel, observer, note block, observer, and a redstone repeater on the top set to 1 tick. Keep in mind these observers power downward. We'll need to take 3 outputs from this piston. 1 at the top, 1 to the side, and yet another one to the other side, facing the piston directly. Place an observer on top, powering a sticky piston with a sideways observer. Connect 2 observers facing downward to the side of the piston, then swing around to the top and add this slab and note block. Below the note block, place an observer powering downward, redstone dust on the observer and slab feeding into a repeater on 3 ticks on the face of this observer. Then swing back down and place a note block and another observer powering a solid block. Back up at the top, we'll need 2 solid blocks and 3 observers out of this redstone dust. A downward facing sticky piston to the side of this note block, and another solid block with 2 blocks above that. Next, we'll connect 3 solid blocks to this observer. Repeater on 4 ticks flanked by 2 pieces of redstone dust. We'll need our downward facing sticky pistons to retract the top door blocks, so connect these to a solid block on the other side of the build, then place redstone dust on them in this configuration, attaching it to the repeater on the other side. Lastly, a sticky piston and solid block, which will cut off this redstone line in the closing sequence. That's all of the redstone done. Now we can just add some blocks for and around the door and make sure that it's working. If you want to reduce the amount of time the door stays open, you can remove this solid block at the bottom to cut the time spent open in half. You can also replace the door blocks with any blocks that can be moved by sticky pistons, including non-solid blocks.